Hey everybody, welcome to GeekyKOOL Presents. This is Speeak, episode 6. On our last episode, we had Dee from Scallywag Productions on here with us to talk about D&D and the OGL. I wanted to come back around to that because there's news today. In fact, on Tuesday night over at GeekyKOOL Presents, Professor and Ace, we did have Dee on there along with Jesse and Keith talking about this very same thing and about what that was going to mean to fans, what that was going to mean to organizations that are wanting to contract with people. And all of that happened, and then things changed significantly today. Yes, completely unexpectedly, Wizards of the Coast, through D&D Beyond, have put another statement out. And these statements, have been met with some frustration from fans and from people wanting to work with D&D. The first statement being about the OGL and about how it was all just it was all a draft, and then the second one being more of, well, we're going to change things up, and now here's 1.2, and let's do a play test. And people were very frustrated with the idea of a play test with this. And as a whole, people just wanted to keep the OGL the way it was. OGL meaning Open Gaming License, for those of us that don't know what I'm talking about there. And that was a method for D&D to be able to be enhanced by third-party products being able to be sold and linked to D&D, and D&D to keep everything that was official, but for some of these agencies to put out books and different other things about D&D that would work along with D&D. And that's been true for the last 20 years. Actually, for the last 22 years, that's been true. D&D's had that, and it has been a really good partnership. And so for those that have not kept track, Hasbro, the company that owns Wizards of the Coast, which is the company that owns D&D, decided that they needed to make more profits from D&D, and so made some changes to the Open Gaming License to where it wasn't quite so open. In fact, it was anything but open. And then they saw the backlash of people dropping their D&D Beyond memberships, and it caught their attention in a harsh way. And then they put out those two notices that we've talked about. Well, there's a new notice out today. I wish I could have gotten on to talk about this a little sooner, but let's go through it, because this pretty much means everybody which canceled their D&D subscription, everybody which has been talking about boycotting, everybody that signed a petition, everybody that's done a podcast about this means you guys made a difference. So I'm going to pull this up here for you guys to be able to see. I'm going to go over here to the corner. All right, so this is about the OGL 1.A and the Creative Commons. Here, let's bring this up to full speed here so we can really kind of see it. So basically, it says, when you give us a playtest feedback, we take it seriously. People did not think that Dungeons & Dragons, Wizards of the Coast, any of those guys were going to take this seriously. Of course, the people that work for those agencies are may have very well hoped that feedback would make a difference, but most people didn't feel like feedback was going to make a difference. Well, it looks like it did. Already over 15,000 of you have filled out a survey, and here's what you said. 88% do not want to publish TTRPG content under the OGL 1.2. That's tabletop role-playing game, by the way. So they didn't want to publish. 88% of the people that have been working with them have said, yeah, we're not going to do that under this new license that you're looking at, this Open Gaming License 1.2. 90% would have to change some aspect of their business to accommodate it. 89% are dissatisfied with the deauthorization of the OGL 1.0A. 86% are dissatisfied with the draft of the VTT product. VTT being a virtual tabletop policy. There was a policy that pretty much made it sound like if you weren't on the D&D Beyond virtual tabletop, it was pretty much going to be impossible for you to do your own version of a virtual tabletop. And there are several different virtual tabletop systems out there. We did talk about that pretty extensively on Tuesday's edition of Professor Nace. And you can check that out. 62% are satisfied with including the system reference document, the SRD content in Creative Commons, but the majority that were dissatisfied asked for more content in the Creative Commons. And it was very limited. We do talk a little bit about that, about the information that was included was very limited on that. And so D&D Beyond goes on to say on this that these live survey results are clear. You want OGL 1.0A, you want it in revocability, and you like Creative Commons. And that was the message that that at least most of us that had been talking about this issue wanted to send to Wizards of the Coast and up to Hasbro. We want this. We don't want it to be revoked. In fact, many legal experts believed it was not revocable because of the language that was in the original OGL 1.0A. And we do like Creative Commons because that gives people access to be able to use things and to feel free to be able to play in that sandbox, make some money while doing it without really being a threat to Dungeons and Dragons, to Wizards of the Coast, to Hasbro, all of this. Of course, let's put this in perspective. This is coming out just hours after the announcement that Hasbro was letting go about 1,000 people because of not meeting their what their projections for the last quarter. So basically, they didn't sell enough toys, they didn't sell enough games, they didn't sell enough anything during Christmas time or the holiday time to be able to meet what they had projected. This news has tanked their stock prices even further than it was. And it was already tanking. And part of that was because of all of the promotion, all of the content that's been put out, all the tweets, all of the, and then which led to articles from major newspapers and news organizations being written and broadcast about this whole ordeal with the OGL. So it had put bad press on Hasbro and bad expectations on Hasbro, and then they were already going to have this thing come out. So I don't know that we can really link the problems that Hasbro has and that they were having to let people go with this, but it is clear that Hasbro is having a major issue, and this here is to help this out. If anything, this will definitely help the PR out and get people to stop talking about the OGL, which has continually been a black eye for Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. So at the bare minimum, that's what this is going to do. So here's what they are saying for all of us that are interested. We are leaving OGL 1.0 in place. It is untouched. We are also making the entire SRD 5.1 available under Creative Commons license. You choose which you prefer to use. That gives freedom to creative people to be able to do things. It also gives freedom for us making videos here to feel like we are not going to have Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast looking down upon us and being able to say, you're talking about our content, we want a portion of whatever you make. By the way, not making anything on these videos at the moment. If you'd like to change that, please make sure you push that like button, the subscribe, all of that, because we would love to be able to, make a little bit of money to pay for our costs. But that's okay. If you're watching, we are really happy you're watching. Please consider doing those things to help us out. We would love that. That's just a little side note there. But basically, this goes on and talks about the Creative Commons license and what's going to be in there. You guys can read that. I did link to that in the video, so you can go in and read this fully. It's over there on D&D Beyond, and you don't have to have a subscription to read it. You can just get on there and read this change. So if you have gotten rid of your subscription or have decided you're going to boycott Dungeons & Dragons forever, then you can still read what's being said without having to worry about it. So, anyway, they say their goal here is to deliver on what you wanted. So, what we wanted. So, what about the goals that drove us to state the process? Basically, they are asking fans and for people in the field to come in together and to make sure the community is being appropriate. That's really what it's about. They're talking about inclusion and welcoming nature of D&D. They felt like there were things that were limiting people on that, and supposedly that was part of what was driving the 1.1, then 1.2. Some people called it 2.0 OGL, even though we know it had many other things that were involved in that. But that was part of it. But they also wanted to be able to look at anybody who had behavior that they didn't find acceptable and get rid of those licenses. Under the 1.0A, that language is not in there. The thing that makes that important is that with the 1.2 proposal, basically Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro had the final say on what behaviors they found offensive. So if you had a tweet from 10 years ago coming out against something that they are in favor of, now they can't get rid of you and keep you from making stuff because of that. That's really what it boils down to with that. It also has a place here for this SDR 5.1cc that will be popping up here. And this will give you all the legal information. And it actually does talk about the different rules there with D&D and kind of how these different things work, the classes. All of this is now usable by us. Now, again, a lot of the lawyers have said this was always usable. You can't copyright things like elves, which have been around for a long time in different stories, dwarves. Lord of the Rings was out before D&D, so then you'd have to do stuff with that. But these things are now all in usable states. So you can use any of this. This is Creative Commons. The classes are Creative Commons. All of this is Creative Commons. So people now have the ability to use this. So any sort of activity that you're wanting to do that would contain that, now you can do that without having worried. And you can get on there and look through all of that. That is information that is out there now for the masses to be able to use in whatever method they want. Basically, they went from trying to make the open gaming license not very open, really only open in name only, to not only are they keeping the original open gaming license 1.0A, but they have made all this other information out there and available. And basically, as they tell us in here, they can't take it back. They have done that. It says, here's the PDF for the SR 5.1 with the Creative Commons license. By simply publishing it, we place it under an irrevocable Creative Commons license. It will get hosted in a more convenient place next week. It's important that we take these steps now so there's no question. So basically, we give you all this stuff, everything you've asked for, and more we give to you. This is a 180-degree turn from where we've been, from where this started off with. It's not confrontational. It is, we're making concessions because we realize we messed this up. So why are they doing this? Is it because Hasbro stock is tanking and they want people to stop making a big fuss about this? I would say that definitely plays into this. I mean, I'm not part of their business machine there, but I mean, why else would you change yourself 180 degrees? Another part of it is they have seen the fans leaving in droves. Even though they wanted to ignore the fans, they are now reading those fans' tweets. They are looking at what fans are wanting to do. And they realize they went from the number one role-playing game, tabletop role-playing game in the world right now, at a level that they had never been at before. They've always been number one, but they've never been to the level they are now. Right now, they basically dominate everybody, or did just 2 months ago. Pretty much everything came under the umbrella of D&D. If it was role-playing, everyone compared to D&D. Now we've got so many people looking to leave D&D that they could lose that tight grip that they had on ruling everything. And how does that affect them other than you've got your book sales, you've got your interest in D&D 1, which will be the next system, which if people aren't interested in, no one will upgrade to. You've got the all the people leaving D&D Beyond, which they paid like $14 billion for, I believe was the number. And now they're basically sinking because they had at least 40,000 people in in a 48-hour period, basically cancel. And I know there have been people canceling since then. So they're having people, and again, the D&D community, the tabletop gaming community, as much as we are mainstream in our own minds, we are not the norm out there. This is not every household being affected. You're talking about a niche group of people, and I'm part of that niche. I play weekly. A niche group of people that's being affected here. 40,000 people is a lot. And you talk about 40,000 people, and usually each of those memberships are probably averaging about $60 a year, $70 a year, plus all the books that we're buying and everything else. That makes a huge difference, especially when a company is not meeting their financial goals. When you're not meeting your financial goals, it's probably bad to actually kick the one place where you're making money. And D&D, and actually Wizards of the Coast was what was making Hasbro a majority of their money because of not only D&D, but also Magic the Gathering and other card games. But those two sections of Wizards of the Coast actually was making Hasbro the most of their money. So they have kicked them when they are down. And now they realize people don't have to play this. There are other games out there. People have stuck with D&D because it's the most common thing. So, yeah, it seems like Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast got the memo, guys. It looks like we have made our opinion known, and they've respected it. And I know we talked about on Tuesday night how big companies don't respect the fans and stuff like that. It looks like they heard us, and it may be just all financial reasons, but they have heard us. They're listening, and they gave us more than what we're looking for. Now, this is a post on D&D Beyond. This is not some sort of formal document out there, but it pretty much is a solid clad contract with the fans and with the creators. If they go to put something else out, whatever grace that people are willing to give them will all be gone, and then they will be in huge trouble. So it would be a detriment for them to go back on this. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is actually victory for the people that were really doing this. I know I'd signed a petition. We put out some videos on this. I've wrote an article about this. This is a big story. It was getting bigger and bigger by the day, and I think that definitely had an impact on them. They also have the impact of the Dungeons & Dragons movie that looks absolutely amazing, in my opinion, is coming out in just like a month. It's in early March, I believe, when it comes out. So we're just over a month away from that. And with this kind of press, people were already talking about boycotting this movie. This movie could be a huge blockbuster from watching it. It could really unite people and cause a firestorm and actually cause more people to come in to play D&D because they went and saw the movie. But where things were at and the bad publicity, that wasn't going to happen. Fans, general fans, myself included, were talking about not seeing this movie to make our voices heard. We don't have to do that anymore. And I know that D&D is probably counting on that we aren't going to be that way. Now, there is some questions. A lot of fans have already decided to change over to Pathfinder and several other of the third-party publishers. Some of them are putting out some really cool sounding games. And what this really has done for a lot of people is open up their eyes to other things out there that would be hard to put that genie back in the bottle. Will people continue to play D&D? Will people come back after this? I think a lot of people that are big lovers of D&D will be back. I think a lot of people are going to come back to D&D Beyond to kind of show, okay, you did what we wanted. We took away our money. Now we're going to be willing to give it back. And it'd also be interesting to see if Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast are smart enough to know to start giving some sort of discount there. Make some of your books a little more on sale than you normally do. Make some sales on giving that yearly subscription to make it a little easier for people to come back by making that extra incentive. That would be very smart of them if they do that. Now, I'm not guaranteeing they're doing anything smart other than what this was here, because they have acted pretty dumb for the last month, and it has really bit them in the butt. But they could be back. So what are you guys going to do? Are you coming back? If you left D&D because of all of this, are you coming back? Or has that ship sailed? I'm curious to see what you guys think. Put comments down below, or feel free to give us comments over on GeekyKOOL.com. That's Geeky, KOOL.com. Cool like cool in the game. For those of you that are old school like me. If you are below like 40 years old, Kool in the Gang was a band back in the 70s and the 80s. It's okay. Just listen to the old man talk. So that's all I've got for you guys. Thank you so much for paying attention and coming on. I know it's a little longer than I expected it to go, because we normally try to keep these between 5 and 15 minutes, a little longer. I apologize for the length of this, but I wanted to get you guys all that information. Make sure you check out what D&D is saying and let us know what you guys think. It looks like a total victory to me, and that's what I'm declaring it, unless something else changes. And things have been constantly changing, so it could happen, but I hope not. I'm hoping this is the end. This will be the last time we got to talk about OGL for a very long, long time. And so, as I usually like to leave off, stay geeky out there, and we'll see you guys later. Rock on.